Hello and welcome to Big Weekend here on the Football365 show, brought to you by Paddy Power. I'm your host, Mark Smith. I'm here as ever with Sarah Winterburn, Editor-in-Chief of the whole damn operation. We've got a lot to talk about, as we seem to every single week we do the show, but a North London derby. Oh, it's tasty. It's tasty. If you like the show, don't forget to like and subscribe and press the notification bell. This is Big Weekend, brought to you by Paddy Power. Right, Sarah, North London derby. It feels like a pretty interesting one this time round. How do you see this one going?
It's interesting in a different way, isn't it? Last week we had the big one that was first v second, and now we have sort of it's that battle. If you just did it in terms of league positions, you wouldn't think it was a big game, but it has to be, doesn't it? It's Spurs Arsenal, and I think we're seeing Arsenal completely sort of switch their attention to the Europa League, but that's kind of not allowed in this game, is it? You can't just go, oh, well, we're not dealing with the Premier League at the moment. This is Spurs. Big question for Spurs, of course, is they've found, whether by accident or design, Jose's been forced into a more attacking kind of football, bringing in, that the triptych we wanted to see, the Bale, Son, Kane, which means that whatever happens behind them, you're probably going to do all right, because they're always going to score enough goals, and certainly Bale in this kind of form he's in at the moment. But does Mourinho stick with that against Arsenal? That's the big question, isn't it? Does he actually just go, do you know what? This is my best team. I'll just play them. Or does he overthink it? Does he go more conservative? Really Arsenal are there for the taking. The sort of form that they're in and the kind of the way that their mind is obviously on Europe at the moment. You've got to fancy Spurs in this, I think, and they're definitely in the better form.
Do you think, Sarah, that he has been forced into this more attacking formation and attitude then, or do you think it is by design? Because what I'm seeing at the minute, I'm seeing Bale back to the sort of Bale we hoped we might get. We none of us thought we were going to get 2010 Gareth Bale, but we're getting a pretty good version of it at the moment. But do you think this is because of Mourinho or despite Mourinho?
I think it's one from 6 from this pile, half a dozen from this pile, isn't it? And I think obviously he would have wanted to be able to play Gareth Bale all through the season. I mean, what kind of an idiot wouldn't? Now, you could argue either he's kept Bale under wraps and stopped Bale progressing back to that, or you could argue that Bale has done that himself by not sort of engaging almost up to now. But however we've got there to the place that we kind of wanted to get when Bale came in, and Mourinho, he might just sort of like, it might just make his fingers itch a little bit when he sees the lineup he has to put out. But I think he's got no choice now. I think this is the way, this is Spurs' best route back into the Champions League, undoubtedly, is to just try and score their way in there. And, with that trio, you kind of, and Kane is so motivated, Son is so motivated, Bale's getting there. I fancy them to win this game and also kind of put pressure on the top four.
Push on, yeah. Well, I see it a different way. I see it being a draw here. I think Jose will just maybe second guess himself a little bit, despite having
just let me
arguably
talk
the better
and then
side.
Just go no.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to undercut you. Don't worry about it. Right, let's move on to the first game of the weekend. It's I think it's the one that was rescheduled because of COVID. Newcastle versus Villa. Oh, you know what? It's got exciting at the bottom of the league, and that is not what Newcastle wanted. Meanwhile, Jack Grealish looks like he might be back for Aston Villa. I can only see this one going one way. What do you think?
Well, as soon as Steve Bruce plays out a 0-0 draw against West Brom and declares it to be a good point, every alarm bell that was already going off is now screaming in your ear, isn't it? Because the difference between Newcastle's attitude at the moment and Fulham's attitude at the moment is worlds apart. As we've said before,
Absolutely.
It's much easier to chase than it is to be chased. But that Newcastle side, there's no way they should be this bad. And at home. Home away doesn't make a difference at the moment. And Villa had a couple of dodgy results without Jack Grealish. Looked a little bit weary against Wolves.
Looked leggy, didn't they?
Yeah, but I think with a little bit of injection of Grealish coming back and the lift that inevitably gives them, you would fancy Villa in that game. Or certainly the form book would tell you that Villa should win this game. And there's very little in that Newcastle side at the moment, especially without Callum Wilson, that you wonder where the goals are going to come from and where that impetus
and San Maximum's out again now.
Sorry?
San Maximum is also out again now.
You worry about them, don't you? And when I say worry about them, I mean you gleefully hope that they go down.
Wow, what a shout. So Grealish looks like he's back. You know what I think about Jack Grealish. It's humiliating for everyone concerned how much I am essentially in love with that man.
Is it still
200
metres the distance you've got to keep from
Yeah,
them.
let's not get into that. Let's not get into that. Do you still give Villa any sort of chance of getting European places? A good end to the season with him back in form and fit?
I'm not sure. I think over the we have these little peaks and troughs, don't we, of these teams who are chasing it, like your Everton, Villa, West Ham to a certain extent. But over the period of the season, it kind of does tend to even itself out. And Villa probably are lacking that little bit of quality to do it week in, week out, just as Everton, I think, are. I think they might just sneak in a Wolves like 7th, I think, but I think it's going to.
That's what I want to hear. Just say yes. A yes, then is fine.
Balls, yes.
A simple yes. You know what my bet is here. Grealish anytime, of course it is. That's part of my Paddy Power 4-way accumulator. Let's move on. Leeds versus Chelsea. Yes. What do I always say? A classic British fixture. Proper game. Chelsea, though, I mean, I said a few weeks ago they looked great. You disagreed. Do you agree now?
They're further along the path, aren't they? I never said they weren't great. I said that they had the structure there in place. They were lacking a little bit of that magic. Now I think that's coming. It's getting better every game. And we're less. A game a few weeks ago that you might say might end 0-0 probably won't now. I think Chelsea are just waiting to absolutely smash somebody, and I think they will. I think there's a 3 or 4-0 coming quite soon. I love everything else.
Is it here?
Quite possibly, yeah. Maybe. No. Of course not.
I mean, pick a team. This is madness. Well, I sort of agree with you. I think there are goals in this. I'm going to go over 3.5 in this one. There is the narrative that Leeds don't know any other way to play other than attacking. It's not strictly true, because we've seen them when they play against the likes of Burnley with 2 big guys up front. They are able to play a more restrictive game when necessary. But I don't think it's going to happen here. No. I think they're just going to go all out and just go toe-to-toe, and that's what we love about them, isn't it?
4-all. 8-8.
4-all, why not? Over 3.5 is the crucial thing to remember. Let's move on to Wolves versus Liverpool. I don't know what to say about Liverpool. I'm all out. I'm done. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I don't know how I'm supposed to act. I'm constantly surprised. But how can I be? It's 6 in a row they've lost at home. We're yet to see what happens with them in the second leg of the Champions League. I don't know what to say.
We should be used to it by now, shouldn't we? And yet it sort of discombobulates you every week.
It's so alien still.
I assume that Fulham game, that they were going to sort of not kick on from there, but they would stay it a little bit, that they would sort of stem the tide a little bit. Them losing at home to Fulham is absurd, really. So I'm loath to go into any weekend with Liverpool now thinking that this is going to be the one where they sort of turn it a little bit, because you watch that Fulham game and this is not about luck, this is not about smash and grab, this is not about circumstances.
They won it well.
Fulham were the better team, and I think and if you look at the form over the last sort of 10-12 games, Fulham are the better team, and unfortunately for Liverpool there's half a division at least that are the better team at the moment. So the worry with Liverpool is not kind of can they sort of recover to hit the top 4, because right now that feels a long way away. I think right now it's stemming the tide to stop dropping further. That's
yes,
to not end up in a mid-table sort of mess.
Yeah, and that's it's sort of about saving face, isn't it? Okay, they might still get top 4. They might not, we don't know, but it's about having a good end to the season and getting some feel good back in that club. Wolves are probably a good side to play at the moment, though. They're not particularly expansive. Yes, Pedro Neto, we all love him, but they're not going to score a load of goals. Yeah,
they're not going to score more than 1 anyway. Regardless of the trouble that Liverpool have got. So then the onus is on Liverpool to score a couple, and that, really they should be able to do that. But who knows at the moment? This it's confusing. It's discombobulating. It's all those words that you can't even think of. Connor Cody to score 3 own goals there, though, and get Liverpool 3 points. Not really, of course it's not. Right, final game we're going to talk about, Man United versus West Ham. United were great. They were great against Man City. No other way to describe it, I think. West Ham have been superb the last few weeks as well. So actually, this might be the best game of the weekend. It might be, but we know that David Moyes struggles against Man United, has done historically, does tend to struggle against the bigger teams anyway. Seems to go into these games with a little bit of an inferiority complex, and doesn't seem to kind of push beyond where we want them to push.
Yeah.
We'd like to see them to go toe to toe, but I think what will happen is that West Ham will revert backwards. But actually, that might not be the worst thing to do against United. City played into United's hands, and they United produced a very, very good performance, but it was all built around that pace on the counter. It was based around the power and the getting numbers forward very quickly.
But I'd also say in that though that yes, of course, Man City played to United's strengths, and the likes of West Ham or the likes of Sheffield United, West Brom, whoever have taken points off them recently, won't play like that. But the intensity that United pressed with and chased down with and harassed with, and the authority in the passing, that is something you can do in all those games, regardless of what,
it should be.
What you're playing
in a
against.
way, it should be easier because you're not having to engage that press as often, so it shouldn't really be as tiring. Yeah. But unfortunately, you very rarely see that intensity from teams when they're playing against teams that sit so deep, and you've almost got to sort of back off to get them out, to get then it becomes a very complex game of kind of almost who doesn't want the ball in order to be able to counter attack. We've seen it time and time again. United do struggle when they've got those banks of defenders in front of them. They can't use that pace. Martial looks like a statue when he's not allowed to use his pace to good advantage. Players like Dan James just become irrelevant in that kind of situation. It's been really interesting, but I do fancy Man United will win this one. I think taking the sort of the lift that they've got from that City game. For once, everything was positive about United, wasn't it, last weekend? Yeah. And if you're not buoyed by that, I don't know what you can be buoyed by.
No, no Lingard for West Ham. He's, I assume he can't play against his parent club. I am going to go for Martial to score here, though. He was outstanding against Man City. Hopefully it will give him a little push on for the rest of the season. Yeah. Well, statues can score as well, so let's wait and see. Right, that's all we've got time for, Sarah. Thank you for joining me. Thank you guys at home for watching. This has been Big Weekend, brought to you by Paddy Power. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can email us. It's the editor at football365.com. But until next time, from me and Sarah, goodbye.